Okay, so let's talk about voice. This is one of those things that's a little bit harder to quantify, but when I show you these examples, you will see. So the online voice, it's conversational, and for the radio practitioners out there, you know what conversational is. But think of it like talking to one person. And when I say conversational, I am not talking about casual. We're not going to start using slang or say like in unusual places. We're maintaining our editorial values here, but just being conversational. And it just makes the information delivery and consumption a lot more personable. Now think of the difference between wire copy and magazine writing. Magazine writing can, gives you context, color, and analysis. It can really draw you in, whereas wire copy tends to be more about just the facts. And if there's someone you like, certainly we have all the Ira Glass wannabes out there. If you find a blogger you might be interested in, in imitating, try it out. Like Mark Memmott is great at the Two-Way. We also have Jake Ellison at KPLU and Mark Brush at Michigan Radio. One thing I like about Mark Memmott is he's great at crediting people, crediting the sources, and there's a real ease with his writing. If you take a close look, he's got a real sense of ease with and confidence with the information he's reporting. And experiment and practice. Imagine like those initial audition tapes for radio reporters. They probably don't sound that way now if they've been doing if they've been doing what they've been doing for many years. Same thing with online writing. You got to experiment, you got to practice to really develop your online voice. So when I talk about voice, I'm going to show you three stories on the same topic. So this one is Michigan unemployment again. Here's the AP story, very factual, number of jobs gained, how that compares to the mid-2009, et cetera, et cetera. Very fact-oriented, right? It's what I expect from AP. This is from the Detroit Free Press. Again, also just the facts. It's, there's a quote up here, that's fine, but it's still very newspapery, factual, like just the facts. Michigan Radio does something different, Mark Brush. So what he does here that's pretty interesting, let me pull up the text. He writes about the trends using the chart. So this post here, he says, okay, here's the graph. He wants to talk about the graph to explain the story about the unemployment rate. And the headline is very basic. The unemployment rate falls to 8.8%. But he wants to tell the story with the graph. And he says, it's an attempt at a more complete employment picture in Michigan. He's telling you why he's showing you the graph. So he says here, as you can see, the unemployment rate has been falling in the state since the fall of 2009, but it also shows the drop in the state's overall labor force. So he is saying that the graph conveys something that the words and numbers could not. And he has this line in parentheses. See that little tail at the end of the blue line? He wants to direct your attention to this. So it's instead of, the numbers right here, 8.8%, but he really wants to talk about it in the context of the labor force, that even though unemployment has dropped, the labor force has actually grown. And that's an interesting thing for him to point out. Okay, one more. Actually, this is another story out of San Diego. This is the San Diego Union Tribune, the paper in San Diego. I'm just going to read you the first 3 lines here. Actually, it's 2 lines. There's so much text, I thought it was 3 lines, 3 sentences. San Diego Convention and Visitors Bureau won marketing control of the San Diego Convention Center Tuesday in a power play that pitted labor unions against hotel owners. The City Council approved on a 7-to-1 vote, shifting $3.1 million in center funds annually to the industry-dominated Convis, which would take over most sales and marketing responsibilities. That's really wordy. You're starting off with this big, bulky San Diego Convention and Visitors Bureau, which I think is what Convis stands for, but I'm not sure. I don't know what the shortcut is for Convention and Visitors Bureau, but it's very wordy. But voiceofsandiego.org, which is an online news site only in San Diego, does something different. They write, San Diego's hoteliers got what they wanted from the city on Tuesday. City Council gave them more control over the convention center's operations. The decision comes on the eve of the hoteliers' vote on financing the center's expansion through higher hotel room taxes. Now this paragraph is 3 sentences, and they're short, they're direct. And I understand what's being said here, that this is about the gains from the hotel industry. And there's no mention of the San Diego Convention and Visitors Bureau or the San Diego Convention Center. But this language is so much more conversational. I actually understand what's being said, whereas with this one, I have to read it a few times. Like what is this bureau? What's Convis? It's just said in such, it's technically correct, but it's just not conversational, and I don't know what the real issue is. To me, the real issue gets lost. Okay, so here's one more. This is the last one. I'm talking about voice. This is the AP story about this Asian American who was nominated for the New Jersey Supreme Court. This is the AP version, very factual. Here's the vote. He was grilled. This is what he was grilled about, etc. So, and he was rejected. That's at the top. Very factual, great. This is a newspaper story. There's solid reporting. There's some context. First time in modern history, lawmakers have turned down a governor's choice for the state's highest court. That's great. It's more conversational than the AP story. But this is better. This is the New Jersey Spotlight. This is an online news site, local news site in New Jersey. So here's the lead. For a little over 6 hours yesterday, Phil Laquan withstood a barrage of questions about his family, his finances, and yes, even a few about his judicial philosophy in his Senate confirmation hearing to serve on the state Supreme Court. It was to no avail. There are 2 words here that really stand out. And yes, it's kind of acknowledging the politicking going on here. Yes, yeah, they actually asked about his judicial philosophy, even though a lot of it was about his family and his finances that may not have quite as much to do with his judicial philosophy. So this reporter here is expressing expertise and comfort with the topic that is so much more conversational than these are the facts.